Hi, I'm Chief Strazza from the Brunswick Hills Township Fire Department. Thank you for tuning in to watch this episode of Fire Alarm, where our fire inspector will go over numerous fire safety tips for you and your family. This is Fire Alarm.
Hi, Tom, Inspector over here again at Brunswick Hills. Nice to see everybody. Today I'm joined on this segment with State Fire Marshal Educator Angela Potter. Thank you for coming out and spending this time with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Absolutely. So if you could talk a little bit about what you do at the State Fire Marshal, and specifically, I know you deal a lot with little children and going out and educating little children, and we would like our public to know, and also other people that are trying to teach safety to their little children, is what best works and what you found over your career works.
Okay, awesome. Well, so in my position at the Marshal's office, I cover 7 different counties. And so we do community outreach, public education, sometimes in the schools, sometimes at different community events and things like that. And so what I have found with the kids, and if we're going to start with the younger ones first, what I have found is that, people are more likely to do what it is that you're asking them to do if they understand the idea behind it. So specifically with little kids, we try to give them something that's actionable to do, and something that really focuses on the positive versus the negative. So, for example, if they see matches or a lighter on the ground, we don't want to say something like, don't touch that. We would rather give them something actionable to do and something that's very positive. So we could say, if you see something like that, we want you to get an adult and have the adult put those away.
I think that's a great technique to use, especially as being a public educator myself, as you like to have that positive reinforcement. And have you used that? I know you have a child, now an adult child, but is that how you were teaching as your children were growing up?
Oh, I tried. I did my best. Yes.
It's great. It's great. And then, as you know, I worked with teenagers
Yes.
over my career. So, but before we get into that, do you mind if we take a quick question? Chief Strazzo often either emails a question or gets one on a voicemail. So we put a few together so you and I could just talk about our own experiences as it regards to these questions.
No, perfect. That sounds great.
All right. Let's see what we got here. It says, Dear Brunswick Hills Fire, my name's Allison, and I just bought a new smoke detector, and I was wondering where is the best location to install it?
That's a great question. So the recommendation is, of course, to have at least one smoke alarm on every level of the house, and then one smoke alarm in each sleeping area and outside the sleeping area. And of course, we want to put these on the ceiling.
Sure, and with the economic conditions, sometimes it's difficult to have all the recommended, but the first thing is, like you said, is to have it near the sleeping area, especially if you have a small hallway with maybe 3 bedrooms. That would be the most important during sleeping hours, this and that. And as a matter of fact, just would like to let everyone to know in Brunswick Hills and Brunswick that Brunswick Hills and Brunswick City partnership with the American Red Cross to provide up to 3 free smoke detectors installed by us regularly, and it's been a great program, and we ask our citizens to call us. We certainly don't want you sleeping without a non-working smoke detector.
Well, that's an awesome program, and that's free of charge, right?
That is.
Okay.
That is with our partnership.
Awesome.
So, as I was saying, as I've dealt with a lot of 12 to 15-year-olds over my career in the fire service, and one thing through research that we found is that we do a great job, police and fire do a great job teaching 911 and when to call 911. But we also found is that that age group there has a problem with not knowing what to do when they call 911. There's a absent, unless they were involved in Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or other associated programs, or like the babysitter certification, that they don't know what to do. So one thing we can do with this program and build our relationships throughout Northeast Ohio or our state of Ohio, is to let public educators, police and fire know that, these children, have the cognitive skills and abilities to help install smoke detectors. Sometimes they're cooking pizzas in the oven, and to give them some education in order to be safer at home, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, and I think, one important thing is, of course, when they call 911, just to remind them to stay on the line until the dispatcher hangs up first, right? Just in case there's any last minute questions or clarification that they need. I think that's really important. Yeah.
I think that's a great point. And a matter of fact, this was my first year here working with Safety Town, and that was one of the things the police officers were sharing with the students, the attendees, of saying exactly that. Once you call 911, stay on the line. There's good information. There's help there. Mm-hmm. And thank God we have such good dispatchers in the area, which how important that is.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. We'll try another question and see if anyone tricks us up here.
All right. Sounds great.
Hello, I recently bought a small fire extinguisher for my kitchen, and I was wondering how big of a fire will it extinguish? And that's from Genevieve.
Okay, well, that's also a great question. And, usually it's recommended like a small trash can fire, just a small trash can fire. However, we always say that, if someone looks at a fire and they feel like it's too large, then it's just too large. We would rather have them get out of the home, make sure to shut the door, right? But we would rather have them get out of the home and be safe outside, let the fire department handle it.
You know what? That kind of segues into our next little bit we were going to talk about, which is elderly and senior population and the things around the home that are dangerous to them and things that they can do. What do we say? It's not when you have a fire, it's when you have the fire. If you're going to have a fire, it's when you're going to have the fire. Because we use fire for cooking, we use fire for heating. Mm-hmm. So it's around us all the time. People are grilling outside. So we just want people to learn what to do to be a little bit safer. But let's talk specifically about our elderly and our seniors.
So for our senior adults, and this could be for anyone, of course, in the kitchen, but we just want to make sure that if there is a fire in the oven or in the microwave, fire needs oxygen to grow larger, right? And so we want to make sure that if there is a fire in the oven or the microwave, that they leave those doors closed, right? Turn off the heat source if they're able to get to it safely, but leave those doors closed because, of course, when you open the door, you introduce more oxygen to the fire. It's just going to get larger. And so we'd like them to keep those doors closed, contact the fire department, and make sure that, the fire goes out, make sure that there wasn't any extension. So we still want them to contact the fire department, but definitely keep those doors closed.
That's a great point. If they can get close enough to turn off the knobs, possibly unplug it, obviously that saves it. But not moving things that are burning is very important because that's what we even teach the little ones at the Safety Town. If they would catch themselves, we kind of use making s'mores on a campfire as an example. And maybe a little ember got on them. It was an accident, but it happened. That don't run around because that could cause a fire to get hotter and faster. And that's when we talk about the stop, drop, and roll, and the kids really seem to get that pretty early on. But what other, like cooking in a kitchen for a senior, any recommendations you would have as far as being safer in the kitchen?
So if there is, well, first of all, I'd recommend not wearing loose-fitting clothing, like a robe or something like that with the big sleeves, because as you're reaching over the stove there's the potential for that to catch on fire. So we don't want them to use that, the loose fitting clothing. Also, if there is a fire on the stove, for
Right.
example, the best way, again, we'll talk about, fire needs oxygen to grow larger. And so if we can eliminate the oxygen, then the fire will go out. So
Right.
the best way to do that is to simply put a lid over that pan. If you don't have a lid for that pan, that's fine. You can use a cookie sheet or something larger than that pan. And then, again, if you can get to it safely, turn off the heat source and call the fire department.
I appreciate that. And one thing, we grow up using fire right, and we always use water to put out fire, but that is the biggest no-no when it comes to a stovetop fire, because oil and the fats that come out of food, that water causes much bigger problems. So that is not an option for a stovetop fire. It's actually the least thing we would want you to do.
Right, absolutely. So we don't want to use water for a grease fire because that can cause the fire to spread and grow larger. And so we certainly don't want that. Best way to handle that would be to simply put a lid over the pan. Yep.
Sounds great. All right, we got one more of these questions here and see what we got today. It says, hello, my name's Ethan, and I'm working on a safety project for school. Can you tell me what are some of the most common causes of fires that you have seen in your career as a firefighter?
Wow. Common causes of fires. Well, in the state of Ohio, right now, we have had quite a few fires related to smoking, specifically smoking on oxygen, but there are also fires related to improperly discarded smoking materials and smoking while impaired. So that could be drugs or alcohol, but it could also be on medications.
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is I go back in my career, think about things most common, usually it was someone using a candle improperly or not attending a candle or walking away from a stovetop. So when I tell people, I said, if you burn candles, look at some other alternatives, such as the flame look-alike.
Oh, the
candles,
flameless candles.
Flameless candles.
Yes.
And there's some of them are absolutely beautiful. Some of them you have some aroma that you can put with them. But if you do use candles, you have to be attentive to it. If you have pets, if a furnace kicks on, those different things can cause problems with candles. So be aware, be very aware candles cause fires, and be attentive to the small ones and the elderly if you're using candles. But that's my biggest experience. Seems like my career, over 40 years, I've been on a lot of incidences with candle. Cooking, of course. Cooking is one of the most common causes of fire, but candles seem to be, right up there.
Yeah. And the other, and I know we're not in that time of year right now, but closer to, October, November, December, space heaters sometimes. And so we want to make sure that we tell people to keep the space heaters at least 3 feet away from anything that could burn. So we ask that people do that as well.
All right. Well, Angela, for this segment, appreciate you coming out. It's been fun. Citizens of Brunswick Hills and City of Brunswick, if this is something you enjoy in the program, please give us an email. We'd like to hear from you, and maybe we can offer some additional things like this in the future. But thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Hi, I'm Tim Haas. I am the Assistant Chief here at Brunswick Hills Fire Department. I've been here for about 28 years. I started back in, I think, 97, when we were only doing about 200 runs a year, running out of a barn at Station 2. So I've stuck with the department for that long. I love working for the department. I love the people. Initially joined the department when I moved here to get to know the people in the area and get to meet some people that are with the same in the same field as I'm in. As assistant chief, I maintain the records. I quality control our NFIRS reports, our EMS reports, I go over training and make sure everything is entered correctly so that all information can be sent to the state with the proper codes. I assist all the firefighters with training and education when they come in. Respond to emergencies when needed as extra personnel, especially during the day when we've been really busy during the day. So I will go with the chief on second calls and third calls when our personnel might be low that day. I also work full-time for the last 29 years in the Shaker Heights Fire Department. So, and I have a few more years left, I think, in me for the job. I still love doing it. I still love being out there with the people and the education.
Hi there, it's Fire Inspector Tom over at Brunswick Hills Fire Department. Today we're going to talk about being safe on the kitchen on the stovetop. This is an electric stove, which is a little bit safer than a gas. However, a lot of you probably do have gas flames. The biggest thing is when you're cooking in the kitchen is we want you to make sure that your handles are off to the side so they don't become a hazard if someone's coming past and grabbing it. Also, don't wear loose clothing when you're cooking. That can catch on fire and cause a fire. And mostly the attentiveness, especially even you think about boiled water. Why do I have to stay with boiled water? Well, if you have food in there and it evaporates, your hot dogs, your noodles, it will start a fire. So be attentive to your cooking stop. Make sure there's no combustibles near the flames, near the top, and just be attentive, and we're always there for you. Have a good day.
Hi, I'm Trisha Cardellino. I'm a resident here in Brunswick Hills. Last October, I came home and realized that my house was filled with smoke. I immediately called the fire department and they responded. I remembered the fire department coming in, and that's immediately what I said. My dogs are inside, please rescue my dogs. They got the dogs out quickly and started emergency services, CPR on the dogs. Unfortunately, our dogs didn't make it, but the fire was contained to the kitchen and we had minimal fire damage to our home. The smoke damage was throughout, but the fire was contained in the kitchen and we had no structural damage to our home. So since the fire department has reached out to us, checking in on us. I reached out to the fire department to give a citizen who helped during the fire special recognition, and they also helped me with that. They responded wonderfully, and I couldn't be more grateful to them.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Fire Alarm. On our next episode, we'll be exploring our technical rescue capabilities. That includes ice rescue, water rescue, rope rescue, our fire investigation unit, and our peer support personnel. We hope to see you there.
Thank you for watching Fire Alarm. The next episode will be available in 2 weeks.